Have you ever been speechless and unsure of what to say to a person who is reaching the end of their life? Even though it's one of the most sensitive and delicate situations that any of us will encounter, it's very simple to say something that could cause pain or hurt. We'll look at 7 things you should never say to a dying person in this video. Insights derived from the first-hand accounts of hospice nurses who have witnessed these events firsthand. You will learn from each of these cases how words, even ones intended to be consoling, can occasionally go in the wrong direction, and what you can do to provide genuine support and tranquility. Keep reading through to the conclusion, because what you discover here may not only alter the way you communicate during trying times, but it may also enable you to provide long-lasting consolation to someone who is in genuine need. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Let's get going now. First of all, expressing empathy for their feelings. Hospice nurses have frequently discussed the agony that a dying person may experience when they hear someone say, "I understand what you're going through." The fact is that nobody can really understand how another person feels in their last days, not even someone who has dealt with a major disease themselves. Every encounter is incredibly unique, influenced by a lifetime's worth of memories, aspirations, and personal anxieties. We may want to be consoling when we say we understand, but it can come out as dismissing the special and sacred character of their trip. An 82-year-old man called Charles once told me that the things that affected him the most were not his disease, but rather when people assumed they knew what was on his mind without asking. All he wanted was someone to sit silently next to him and listen without attempting to rationalize his suffering. Saying, "I can't imagine what this feels like for you, but I'm here," instead, is a gift that is far more meaningful than any meaningless assurance. We demonstrate that we are prepared to meet them where they are, without pretense, and we appreciate their unique journey. Our presence, not our presumptions, is what counts most in certain situations. Second, telling them to fight harder or maintain their optimistic attitude. Telling a dying person to remain optimistic or to keep fighting is another common phrase hospice nurses hear, and it can unintentionally add weight to a burdened heart. Despite being intended as encouragement, these remarks can come off as pressure, as though their value at that particular moment rests on their capacity to maintain their composure or to fight against something they know deep down they cannot change. The latter days of life are a time for acceptance, honesty, and tranquility rather than a competition to be won or lost. We could forget that someone has already given everything they have and that what they need right now is when we tell them to fight more. Permission to rest, not a pressure to do more. My neighbor Helen, who received hospice care at the age of 79, comes to mind. She told me that whenever someone said, "You can beat this," she felt alone, as though no one could see how exhausted she really was. What comforted her were the kind words of friends who said, "I'm here with you no matter what," rather than words of encouragement to keep fighting. In another sense, those words provided her the strength to find peace and let go of the struggle. Please let me know in the second remark below if you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Let's go ahead now. Saying that everything is a part of a larger plan is number 3. Telling a dying person that their suffering is all a part of a larger plan is another. remark that hospice nurses hear far too frequently. This may be expressed in an attempt to offer consolation or purpose, but it may come across as contemptuous of the suffering and anxiety the individual is going through at the time. We could inadvertently make it more difficult for children to communicate their actual emotions when we say things like these, as though their grief or anxiety is somehow inappropriate. Being able to feel what they are feeling without being informed that their experience is only a minor part of something bigger that they might not even believe in is often what people need most when they are facing death. I once knew an 84-year-old woman named Ruth, who told me that she felt ignored when acquaintances attempted to comfort her by claiming that her disease was a part of a plan. Instead of answers, she yearned for simple companionships, someone to hold her hand, sit with her in silence, or simply say, "I'm here." We offer a comfort that words about ambitious objectives could never supply when we offer our presence instead of explanations. Telling them not to cry or display emotion is number 4. Telling someone who is dying not to cry or attempting to prevent them from expressing their own feelings is one of the most useless things we can say to them. According to hospice nurses, it's critical that individuals nearing the end of their lives feel comfortable sharing their emotions, including joy, fear, and despair. Even when we don't want to, we convey the idea that someone's emotions are a burden or something to be kept hidden. When we encourage them to suppress their tears or their sorrow. However, such emotions are genuine and should be respected. I recall an 80-year-old guy named Walter, who once told me that being able to cry freely beside his daughter, without being forced to put on a brave front or be strong, was what brought him peace. His tears weren't a show of weakness in that moment. Rather, they were a release, a means of expressing what words couldn't. The best gift we can give someone is the ability to be who they truly are, shame-free when we allow them to feel what they need to feel. Please let me know in the 4th comment below if you're still viewing this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Alright, let's proceed. The 5th step is to reassure them that they will recover. Telling a dying person you know they will recover is another thing hospice nurses frequently advise against. These words have the power to cause perplexity or even silent sadness, even when they are spoken with great love and optimism. People who are nearing the end of their lives are usually aware of it. They are conscious, even if they have come to terms with it or are still having difficulties. We run the risk of making people feel invisible when we insist that they will get better, as though their truth is unimportant or that we cannot stand to confront it with them. At a moment when they most need love and honesty, this might make them feel even more alone. I recall an 83-year-old woman called Eileen telling me that she was very reassured by people who were ready to sit quietly with her and simply say, "I'm here and I care," rather than by assurances of recovery. We contribute to the development of a bridge of trust and provide someone with the dignity of being greeted exactly where they are. When we opt to offer presence over promises, what really brings serenity in those last days is that kind of openness combined with tender support. Saying that everything occurs for a reason is number 6. When a dying person is told that everything happens for a reason, hospice nurses have frequently seen the anguish that can ensue. Those comments might feel empty and make someone feel even more alone, even though they may be intended to provide solace or to help make sense of something so challenging. Many people are looking for meaning in their own way during those last days. and it can feel like their own thoughts or feelings are being disregarded when someone else tries to define it for them. It's an opportunity to listen intently, not to provide responses that might not align with the person's beliefs or feelings. I remember an 85-year-old guy named Henry who once claimed that the most significant times occurred when people sat with him and just let him talk without attempting to rationalize or explain away his suffering. He found comfort in friendship and the knowledge that he could express his thoughts without fear of rejection or rerouting, rather than in responses. We honor their individual journey and demonstrate our willingness to walk with them without attempting to chart their course when we opt to provide our silent presence rather than explanations. Please let me know in the 6th comment below if you're still viewing this video and finding these insights helpful. Additionally, I advise you to subscribe if you haven't already. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the bell. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. Alright, let's proceed. Telling someone how to feel or behave is number 7. Hospice nurses warn that advising a dying person how they should feel or act is one of the most harmful things they can do. Such remarks can deprive someone of their dignity during a very sensitive time, whether it's by telling them to be brave, to be happy, or to not be fearful. Every person's death experience is different, influenced by their own memories, anxieties, convictions, and aspirations. We run the risk of suppressing their reality and giving them the impression that their feelings are incorrect or unsatisfactory when we tell them how they should feel. I recall an 84-year-old guy named Samuel who once said that his sister's words, "You can feel whatever you need to feel, and I'll be here with you," were the things that comforted him the most. He felt free to be himself without fear of criticism or pressure after hearing those straightforward comments. Giving someone that type of acceptance makes them feel valued and recognized, which is ultimately one of the best things we can do. Last remarks. As this video draws to a conclusion, I hope these 7 observations have given you a better grasp of the impact that words can have during the most vulnerable times in life. What caught you off guard the most? When you're with someone who is nearing the end of their life, which one do you think you'll remember? The reality is that being willing to show up with honesty, compassion, and a listening heart is more important than knowing the ideal thing to say. Carefully choosing our words can bring dignity, calm, and comfort, which can be more important than anything else in those last days. We appreciate you being here with us today. We would be delighted to hear from you. Tell us about one thing you learned today and how you intend to apply it in your life in the comments section below. We value your opinions, so please feel free to express them. We are greatly inspired and encouraged by reading your remarks. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it entertaining and useful. We can keep producing high content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. We appreciate your time and hope to see you in the upcoming video.